sponsors gushed about Rory's natural swing, but his swing was better than natural, as our measurements will show. We will measure Rory's swing using our Russia system of analysis: range, sequence, separation, speed, and alignment. Range is the number of degrees you turn the parts of your body away from the ball at the top of your backswing, and is the main determinant of distance, as can be seen from Rory's 311-yard average drive. Rory's backswing angle of his club shaft was plus 9 degrees, his arm angle 96 degrees, his shoulder turn angle 129 degrees, and his hip rotation angle 50 degrees. This compares favorably with our golfer David Huertas, who is the same height and weight as Rory, but averages 350 or more off the tee, with a backswing angle of plus 18 degrees, an arm angle of 90 degrees, a shoulder turn angle of 120 degrees, and a hip turn angle of 50 degrees. In order to have an effective range, you need a minimum of 90 degrees arm flexion, 110 degrees of trunk rotation, 60 degrees of internal hip rotation, and, to keep both eyes on the ball at the top of your backswing, 110 degrees of neck rotation. Rory's range at the Open, by the way, was better than his prior range when he had only a minus 3 degree backswing angle, a 74 degree arm angle, 120 degree shoulder turn angle, and a 45 degree hip turn angle. In other words, increasing his range did not hurt his accuracy, it only improved his game. A golfer is essentially putting the club head in an orbit around his body. We put satellites into orbit with a multi-stage rocket. A golfer can be considered to be a 5-stage rocket. The first, biggest, and most powerful stage is the legs, followed by the hips, shoulders, arms, and finally the smallest and weakest stage, the hands. For an effective launch, the stages need to be fired in order from the ground up. Any other sequence will be less effective. Rory starts his launch sequence by shifting his hips toward the target, a very weak move that adds nothing to distance and actually degrades accuracy. You can see the effect of shifting the hips on the golf ball by suspending a golf ball on a string and bumping it with your hip. It doesn't go very far. The second stage of his launch sequence is that he fires all stages at once. If a launch engineer fired a rocket with the same sequence, it would be a complete disaster. Compare Rory's ineffective launch sequence with our golfer, who starts by firing his legs first, as you can see from the movement of his left knee, then his hips, shoulders, arms, and hands in order. This is why our golfer has an extra 40 yards on Rory, and yet keeps his drives in the fairway because he can produce effortless power with a more effective launch sequence. Rory's better range is natural because of his flexibility. Unfortunately, his sequence is also natural. His game would be better if his sequence were less natural and more effective. Separation is the amount of time between the firing of each stage. In a rocket launch, each stage separates before the next one fires. Separation also contributes to distance. Rory has absolutely no separation between any of his first 4 stages. He does, however, have excellent separation between his arms and hands, as can be seen by his 6-degree lag at cast point, or when the left arm is 45 degrees below horizontal. Our golfer, by comparison, has excellent separation and clearly moves his left knee before any other part of his body moves. He then moves his hips before moving his shoulders, arms, or hands. This separation, while unnatural, can be learned by those golfers with sufficient flexibility and will add effortless distance to their drives. Speed is the speed of the hips during the downswing. Rory has excellent hip speed, which is also unnatural. Most golfers have very slow hips. We measure hip speed by measuring the change in hip rotation between backswing and the cast point. Rory has rotated his hips from 50 degrees closed to 45 degrees open, the same as our golfer. We then measure the change in hip rotation from cast point to impact. Rory has rotated from 45 degrees open to only 50 degrees open. Our golfer, by comparison, has rotated to 60 degrees open, which is another one of the reasons he is 40 yards longer off the tee.